is a function of what it means to be a real human, to evolve, to grow. We're going to see something similar going on here. Notice, for example, we come to understand sin from our study of hell. We understand penance or repentance from our study of purgatory. And finally, we understand salvation from our study of paradiso, right, or paradise. There is as well a final kind of way to read this, and an anagelical kind of reading, where we're looking at universal truths, right? And this is important for us because only a few, St. Augustine, you'll remember we said this notion of really trying to figure out in the end, what's the ultimate meaning of this text? The mystical vision of God's design is the way that St. Augustine, of course, it's translinguistic. Often it can't be put into words, which is why when Dante sees God, it's just going to be bright light. But we want to understand that from Dante's perspective, it's all about the interdependency of ideas and the way, we might say, the integral way that ideas will work, right? And this idea, of course, this integral kind of reading, we might call it that, the integral approach, is going to be central as well to our finishing this text. Once we finish reading Inferno, we can look back over our shoulders, if you will, and get a sense of it. To finish this lecture, though, I want to come back to 3b. And I want to actually ask the question that I think we always should ask anytime we pick up a text, and that is, why are we reading this poem in the first place? What is the real reason for us to read a text like this? And I think there is an answer that I can help to give you right away. When I pick up Dante's Inferno, the place I like to start is always in the 24th canto. And while we will be working with the translation of Robert Penske, I love the John Ciardia translation as well. He also was a poet, and I love his translation of Book 20, Canto 24. Dante, the Pilgrim, and Virgil are about to the end. And Virgil is wiped out. He's had enough. He's seen enough pain. He's seen enough suffering. He's seen enough torture. He's seen enough crying. He has walked a long way. And he's done. And he sits down and he's ready to be finished. And we're told, he says, "My lungs were pumping as if they could not stop. I thought I could not go on. I sat exhausted the instant I had clambered to the top of a hill." Right? And it's at this point that the great master, as he calls him, Virgil, will speak. And many of my students, I think these will be lines, by the way, that I will have you memorize. Because when we finish Dante's Inferno, these are the lines that I want you to at least take with you. And this is what Virgil will say to the young, lost in the middle of his life, in his third decade, Dante the Pilgrim. He says it this way, and I hope maybe this will resonate for you already. He says it this way: "Up on your feet. This is no time to tire," my master cried. "The man who lies asleep will never wake in fame, and his desire and all his life drift past him like a dream, and the traces of his memory fade from time like smoke in air or ripples on a stream. Get up. You got to go to work. How are you ever going to gain fame if you don't?" You can imagine Dante the poet writing these lines to be spoken to Dante the Pilgrim. And of course Dante the poet is speaking to himself. You can imagine that at this point in the poem, maybe he's starting to get a little fatigued himself and he's ready to give up. He's got a lot more to write the Divine Comedy. And here Virgil says, we got to keep going. "Now," he says, "therefore rise, control your breath, and call upon the strength of soul that wins all battles, unless it sink and the gross bodies fall. There is a longer ladder yet to climb. This much is not enough. If you understand me, show that you mean to profit from your time." Lines 46 through 57 of Canto 24. Now, why do I start here? Well, one obvious reason. Here we are, halfway through our AP study, and a lot of AP students will begin to say, "I'm just getting kind of tired. I really am. I mean, this is hard work. Reading and writing and discussing and analyzing and researching is not easy. It's hard work." And you're right, it is hard work. And there is a tendency for the human psyche to kind of quit, to want to resign, acquiesce. I've had enough of it. And sit down. And it's at this moment, I want you to hear what Dante the Pilgrim has to hear from Virgil the great poet. Up on your feet. By the way, of course, Virgil had to write the poem where Aeneas, his hero, several times has to be encouraged to get up and keep going. Some would argue that's the whole point of the trip to the underworld, to meet his father Anchises at the end of the book 6 of the Aeneid. But here we are, at the beginning of our study, and I want to challenge you with the words of Dante himself, speaking through Virgil to Dante the Pilgrim. Up on your feet, this is no time to tire. There is a higher ladder still to climb. We have more work to do, so let's get up and let's go to work. Let's begin with Canto 1. Let's go to hell. And let's find out that it's a funny thing about the first canto, because we're introduced already to a very interesting philosophic thought. Before you can ever get saved, you have to accept that you're lost. Think about that. No, I'm not lost. I know where I'm going. Dude, you do not know where you're going. No, I know where I'm going. You do not. No, you know what? I don't know where I'm going. You're right. Now let's pull over and ask for some help. Funny thing, right? You can't get found until you realize that you're lost. We're going to pick up with it right away. I hope that you will enjoy this study. I obviously invite you to hang with me through all of the cantos of Inferno. Thank you.